Get ready to dive into a world where empires stand on the brink of war and terrible monsters tear at the fragile borderlands of men. The Adventurer Conqueror King System Imperial Imprint, or as we like to call it, Acts 2, is now live on Kickstarter. Acts 2 is the new edition of the acclaimed best-selling fantasy role-playing game. You'll find everything you need to enjoy epic fantasy campaigns with a sweeping scope. Whether you want to crawl through dungeons, experiment with alchemy, crossbreed monsters, run a merchant emporium, raise an undead legion, or even conquer an empire, Acts 2 supports your playstyle. Acts 2 integrates experience point mechanics, making campaign activities a seamless part of the core gameplay loop. Your character levels up in new and exciting ways each time you play, adding massive replayability to each of your adventures. Acts 2 offers 18 character classes, 378 spells, new combat mechanics, and so much more. Support Acts 2 on Kickstarter today. Knocked Prone is a clean, chaotic, and deep podcast for D&D nerds. Find more ways to support our show in the episode description.
Whether you're a halfling, a giant, or somewhere in between, around the table with your friends, playing Dungeons and Dragons. And if life ever knocks you down, your dice will surely turn around. Players as it's time to quest, let's put your characters to the test.
My name is Cade, and I'm the host and dungeon master of this Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition adventure, and I'm joined here by the players.
Alec playing Zag.
Mason playing Grom.
Marissa playing Efimia.
And Brookelin playing Selene.
Awesome. So we're going to be doing a little session 0 today. So we're going to be talking about our characters, talking about the world a little bit that they will be in. It'll be a short and sweet little thing so that you can get to know our characters a little more before we start right into campaign 2 of Knocked Prone. I wanted to ask you guys what your character voices were going to be like.
Yeah, I'll start. Again, Alec playing Zag. And Zag just wants to be everybody's best friend. Just a little bit higher than my normal voice, but a little more peppy, a little more, higher pitched.
Pop punky.
Pop punk pep. That is the goal.
Okay, awesome. I love it.
My character is Grom, and he sounds a bit like this. Just a deeper, gravelly, a little bit of an accented voice.
Love it. I will try not to copy that, because every time I have an NPC, it's always like, so. Marissa?
All right, and for Efimia, I was thinking something probably just a little bit lower than my normal voice, a little bit breathier, and kind of rolling with that, and a little bit more, I guess, tonal than my normal voice.
For Selene, I'm going to have a little bit of a higher voice, kind of like classic Disney princess kind of vibes, if I can pull that off. So it'll be a little bit more high, like, hi, my name is Selene, and a little bit more like enunciating and just a little bit like cutesy.
Yeah.
I say airy, like
Ariel.
Yeah.
Speaking of characters, though, Zag, tell me about yourself. Tell me what you look like. Tell me your backstory.
Zag is about 20 years old, and he is a Peace Domain cleric. Zag is a half-elf cleric who, like I said before, just wants to be everybody's best friend. 5'5" tall, 150 pounds, super outgoing, cheerful and positive, but maybe a little bit naive. Tan skin, messy jet black hair, and deep emerald green eyes. Zag grew up with a band of orphans led by his elven uncle Kalen in the outskirts of civilization, never settling in one place for too long. He found a liking to medicine and acted as a healer for his tribe, gathering plants and materials to make healing concoctions. While living amongst the Turtles in the South Turtle Port, a band of orc mercenaries found Zag and attempted to kill him. Zag was able to defeat the orcs using his crossbow and with a little help from his uncle, but unfortunately his uncle Kalen was mortally wounded in battle. On Kalen's deathbed, he informed Zag that his father was a king of a faraway land and that Zag and his twin brother, who he has never known about, are the rightful heirs to the throne. Their father tried to kill them at birth, and they both went their separate ways into hiding from their father. His uncle Kalen gave Zag a golden amulet embedded with a darkened emerald gem. He told Zag that they share an ancestral line full of powerful wizards, and that the wearer of the amulet could tap into their ancestors' power. Kalen told Zag to find a sanctuary for the orphans, and set off on his own to the city of Greyhaven to begin the search for his brother. With his dying breath, Kalen created a glowing blue crystal with some form of unknown magic to give to Zag. Zag then sets off on his own to find his brother and explore a modern world he has never unknown. He finds quickly along the way that if he believes in the power of those that had come before him, he's able to heal and produce wondrous magic. He finds his abilities to be of a healing and bolstering nature for those around him, but has an uneasy feeling that something is not right with his powers. All the magic he produces appears dark and necrotic in nature and takes the form of a dark black smoke that seems to have a mind of its own.
Love it. Alec Backus is my older brother. Yeah, he's a real life paramedic. He's a music prodigy and a real-time father.
Yes.
So I don't believe that anyone, Mason, I don't believe anyone else at this table has that to say.
Double
Not
check.
quite now or probably ever, but yeah.
I'm very excited to get to meet Zag. I know that we're going to be recording some prequel episodes, so that'll be really fun to record, and Zag and Grom will get a chance to meet each other before meeting the rest of the group. But speaking of Grom, Mason, tell me more about your character.
Grom is a fighter, champion subclass. Grom is a pretty short dwarf, I'd say 4 foot 5 inches. He is very well built. You can see that he has spent most of his life doing laborious work of some kind, or at least training his body in some way, shape, or form. He's in his mid-50s, which to dwarves is about 20s for humans, to relate that. He's a brawler. He spent most of his life, basically, he grew up on a mountain herding, has a very close relationship with his father. He trusts him and gets most of his advice and wisdom that he uses throughout his life from him, but he never knew his mother. His mother, he has no real memory of her. His father has told him that she died very young due to a giant attack. He went about his life herding, and he ended up being a miner in Brookelin. After mining and stuff like that, he would often find fights and different things like that in the local tavern. Eventually, it got him noticed as a decent fighter, and so he has been invited to Greyhaven in order to take place in some competitive fights for boxing. He loves bantering and trading jibes, especially with those he's fighting with. He sees it all as like a game or good fun or a sport at that. He often will tell stories that glorify himself. He's a little egocentric that way, but at the same time, nice enough that it's not annoying, like it's not his entire personality. He believes that the strongest bonds are forged through struggle and adversaries that are overcome together. He essentially just wants to win honor for his family and his home and show that his family is worth their name. He wishes to be a folk hero and be a person of the people that represents them and fights for them. So he strives really diligently to be like Lilith Fainpike, a champion of the people and a champion in sports. Very naive. He's not good with money. He's not good with navigation. He's not good with many of the real world skills that would actually help him survive.
Well, I'm very excited to get to know Grom. Mason Sydall, you guys might recognize from being Lakir from the last campaign. I'm going to try really hard not to call him Lakir in this campaign, because that is solidified in my brain. But Mason is a real-life theater enthusiast, dog dad, and Dungeons & Dragons pro. Marissa Kearns / Zander, tell me about your character.
Whatever my name is. My character's name is Efimia Arpega. So Efimia is 5'2" or 5'3". She has red hair. She does have a little bit more of a human skin tone. She took that after her father, but she does have the bronze eyes of her mother as well, who was a sun elf. She was born along Faerun to an elven mother who was named Magwyn and a human father who was named Ephron. Her father was raised on a pirate ship, and her mother was born in Evermeet. Her family was a little bit more upper class elven family, and they had Efimia pretty soon after they ran away together and got married. So Efimia kind of grew up in kind of the middle of the two worlds. The good thing for Efimia is she learned a lot from both her parents. Her mother taught her like in all the academics that she grew up with, and her father taught her, like how to learn the seas and how to tell when a storm was coming and what was valuable in rocks and trade and all that fun stuff. But when she was about 10, her mother actually went missing. There was no real rhyme or reason for it, at least that they were ever able to find. The rumor mill kind of spread around town about her mother being kidnapped or running away with some sort of sun elven noble or being murdered, but no one really had answers, including her father, Ephron. So Ephron did his best to raise Efimia on his own after that. He would often leave Efimia with a neighbor and try to go continue looking for her mother, and this continued up until he died in her early 20s. After her father passed away, she really had nobody, and she ended up falling in love with a man named Edmund, and Edmund was an inn runner, and she would work at the inn and trying to live there, just because she had nowhere else to go. Edmund wasn't the best of dudes. He would often, kind of sneak out, do his own stuff, and she was just naive to the fact and felt like, they were in love and they were happy and everything was good. But then Edmund actually got addicted to choke mist. And so he was poisoned and just kept trying to seek out this poison continually. Efimia at least knew that was going to be that was going to kill him if she let it continue. So she got him arrested so he couldn't get access to more choke mist. And she went out on the search for a cure because she knew, at least as far as she knew, there was not one. This is how she came across a priest named Banak, who was an evil priest who praised Orcus, who is a demon lord and master of the undead. He summoned Orcus on Efimia's behalf, and in exchange for her soul, she got to be his servant. And she did this so she could just find a cure. He offered to cure Edmund in that case and give her powers in exchange on the condition that she would be his servant. She, of course, obliged. She would do anything for Edmund. And soon after Edmund got cured, she rushed home and she was able to release Edmund from his cell. And he was, able to get better pretty quickly from that point. So she felt like it was all worth it. She tried to nurse him back to health from there. And he insisted that he needed, to go on walks and go out on his own and kind of fill out the world. Turns out she saw him running around with a ranger woman. It was at that point she realized she'd made that promise and sold her soul for what turned out to be nothing. So she's a little bitter right now. And she realized, her worldview was not what she thought it was. She didn't really have anyone to lean back on at that point. She's going out at this point. She was kind of lost for a while, didn't really know how to manage her powers, didn't know if Orcus is going to call on her or when. So at this point, she is kind of wandering around, trying to make sure she's staying away from Orcus's high priests and making sure that they don't try to call on her. Because again, she doesn't really know what that goes about. She doesn't really understand her powers at all. And she's just kind of learning as she goes.
Awesome. Love that. Marissa Kearns Zander is one of Brooke and I's great friends. She's a real-life coffee expert, a charismatic icon, and a programmer as of late. Brookelin, tell me about your character.
All right, so I play a protector Aasimar. Class is a phantom rogue, and my character's name is Selene. Selene Litigate. And she is 5'4". She has medium long blonde hair and blue eyes. She has these bright white mid-sized wings that sprout from her back when called upon. And she has beautiful pink clothing and accessories. Having a very polished and feminine look is a really big part of her identity. She's from a city in the clouds known as Ethos Summit. Selene is close with her 3 younger siblings and also has a boyfriend named Finch. They've been dating for 3 years and recently became long distance. She's very much a hopeless romantic and will probably be annoying in that way. And then Selene's parents have passed on, so she doesn't have a mom and dad in her life. So her family would describe her as being level-headed, calm, and friendly, but at the same time, they know that she can command a room if she needs to. People would be mistaken if they thought that her cute smiling appearance was an actual connection, because really it's quite difficult to enter her innermost circle. You can see her desire to strive for perfection, not only in Selene's appearance, but also in her effort to achieve her goals as well. So when she sets her mind to something, she follows through passionately no matter what's in the way. Everything outside of her life goals are trivial to her though, and she's actually quite a bit apathetic towards most things. She believes there's no use in becoming overwhelmed with issues that are outside of her purpose in life. She doesn't have a lot of fighting experience, but she does prove to be handy with her weapons, as her job back home was to gather and sacrifice animals to our god, Lathander, every week. The Aasimar people believe that their god, Lathander, gives preference to those committed enough to give weekly sacrifices at their temple in the clouds. Right now, Selene is away from her hometown on family business, and she recently just met Efimia.
Well, Brookelin Backus, other than being my lovely, lovely wife, is a real-life mental health counselor, digital artist, and fashion model. And then I am Cade Backus. I'm a real-life college English dropout, audio podcast engineer, and dungeon master, but I don't love that term. So throughout the podcast, I'll probably change it up, like dungeon referee or
I do like
demon
referee
manager. I don't know. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the information of the world that you will be going in. So this is 1,000 years in the future from the events of Campaign 1. From the events of Great Grombopolis falling, 1,000 years have passed, and because of which the world is very, very different, but still has echoes of the world before. It's not modern, but it will be a little more futuristic. Think of more like almost kind of Victorian era, just a little more modern. Technology is just starting to be introduced into the world. Speaking of which, the world has discovered something called these rune crystals. A company has bought out a bunch of rune crystals that were discovered in the Underdark underneath Brookelin, which is Grom's home city. These crystals are basically like the lifeblood now of the world. They control all the technology. There's a rune rail system that goes throughout the entire world of trains, because I figured, how can I railroad my players better than putting a train in the session? So the world is called the Badlands, nicknamed by the citizens of Great Grimbopolis. There are things called Badland credits. I wanted to bring this up. The symbol of the Badland credit is an SZ. Now that's like the German B that is like the sharp S. It's technically two S's in a row, but it looks like a B, and I've repurposed it for our money system. 10 Badland credits is equal to 1 gold piece. So feel free to convert all of your gold pieces over to Badland credits, because that's what we will be using in place of gold coins this game. There is a corporation called Ascended Corp. Ascended Corp has bought out the runes that are being produced in Brookelin right now. They've created the railway system. They have basically this giant monopoly over tons and tons of things that are in the world, and they are just this huge corporation that you would all know about. The 4 of you will be starting in Greyhaven. Now, Greyhaven is what Fort Outcast has now been renamed after the rebuilding of Fort Outcast since Alec destroyed it.
Why is it called Greyhaven?
They renamed it Greyhaven in the remembrance of the Great Aura, and they wanted it to be a haven to the outside world. Greyhaven is the capital of the Badlands. I will explain to you more in the first session as to what your characters are going to be doing and how you play a role in this world, in fighting against the darkness that is creeping into the land of the Badlands. Thank you so much for joining us for this session 0. I'm very excited for you to get to know our characters in the first coming episodes. And if you like this content, go on over to patreon.com/knocked. We're starting to post a lot of things like Talked Prone, which is a after show where we talk about the sessions after we record them. We have things like free dice. We have 4 prequel episodes where Efimia and Selene and Grom and Zag go on these little adventures at level 2 right before the start of the first session, which we will be starting at level 3 for session 1. You can also create an NPC that I will hand put into our world. So if you want to be part of our story, make sure that you go over to our Patreon. Again, that is patreon.com/knocked. I'm so excited to be able to talk to you over there and add you to our Discord. And we hope that you remember when life knocks you flat on your back, all you got to do is keep rolling. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.